Hey, Tony Guys here. Now, I want to talk to you about the Jezebel and money. Now, this Jezebel spirit is in men and in women. And the issue here is when somebody has a Jezebel spirit, they're more focused on money than anything else, male or female. And what's happening is I seen this thing where a lady said a man who makes 70,000 that's not enough for her. And that is absolutely preposterous and insane. And if you are a woman who has that mindset, I'm urging you to change that because it is going to cost you your sanity and it may cost you your life. It may cost you your health. Because if you have an income requirement that is nearly double the standard income of a man, you're asking for way too much and you can't give enough in return. And here's what I mean by that is it's one thing if you make 70,000 and you're saying that you need him to be at 70 or in that bracket, in that range, so that you're not being used by him, then that's one thing. But what you have to realize, if women start to put more focus on a man being a provider and a man making money, then men may start to put more focus on what they want from a woman. And what a woman will end up is with a lopsided marriage, because you'll have a man who says, hey, I'm doing what you want from me and I'm bringing the amount of money to the table. But money is not what I require from you. What I require from you is a cooked meal and sex and affirmation. Those things don't cost you any money, but that is currency to me. So now, as a woman, you have to ask yourself, well, if that's what he wants and he's giving me what I want, should I give him what he wants? And as a woman, if you make money the focus, then he is allowed to make what he wants to be the focus. So if you say, well, he has to make 70,000 or 100,000 or whatever thousand you put on it, and he says, okay, cool, that's your standard. All right, well, my standard is you have to do this. And then as a woman, you're like, well, I can't have sex with you X amount of times a week because I'm tired from work or because we have kids. So now you're asking him to make a concession when you did not make a concession on what you wanted. And so that's why money should never be the focus. What is the focus is how we treat each other. Because if we go into a relationship and we can treat one another with respect and we can communicate our needs, like what we really need, and those needs come from a healthy place. Not everything that you need, that we need, is valid, because sometimes our needs are based on our voids or our unhealed trauma or our insecurities. So you have to first evaluate what you need. Then you have to ask yourself, okay, what am I feeding? So let's say the man says, hey, I need you to role play and I need you to like put this on and put that on and to come on to me and to be more sexual. Well, if the woman says that's not in my nature, that's not in my personality, that's very uncomfortable. First, what the man has to ask himself is, where is this coming from? If it's coming from a perverted spirit, If it's coming from a former porn addiction or a current porn addiction, then he's asking that from the wrong place. If a woman says, hey, I need you to make 70,000, if that's coming from a place of scarcity, a scarcity mindset from growing up poor, or if it's coming from an entitled or a spoiled place because she's a daddy's girl and daddy gave her everything and didn't teach her responsibility and how to get it on her own, then it's coming from the wrong place. But if we evaluate it and we can say, hey, well, the reason why I want this is so that I can be, this is the man. If this is his request, if he's saying, I want this so that I can be completely 100% immersed in you. I want this so that you're my everything and I'm your everything. This has nothing to do with an addiction or with perversion. It's just, I want to experience my wife in her fullness in every way. And if the woman says, I want this so that we can have stability and so that I can be 100% in as a wife and a mom and we can take care of bills. And it has nothing to do with childhood trauma or daddy issues. So if you can evaluate it and it comes from a healthy place, then your ask is valid. But if you get to the root and you realize that what you're asking comes from a place of insecurity, or it comes from a place of perversion, or it comes from a place of trauma, or it comes from a place of brokenness, now you ask amiss. And this is something that has to be thought about and you got to process, because when you talk about this, a lot of people just get in their feelings and they get upset and they don't really think about it. But the issue with having a income requirement for a man is a man's personality, and some women are like this too. So you got to realize if some women are like this, then it's even double the case for a man. So a man who is a typical everyday man, the average man, he does not know how to provide without having ownership. So essentially, what a man buys, he owns. So if a woman says it takes this amount of money to have me in your life, to have my love and my respect, then you have just made yourself a piece of property. So when the man hits that income goal, he now owns you. You don't get the freedom and the right to say, you have to have this amount of money to have me. And then also say, now that you have that amount of money, I have your money, but you don't have me. It doesn't work like that. If you have an income requirement that you verbalize, you are a product. You are property. If that man has that amount of money, you are his property in his mind. Don't say that, well, I want to have an income requirement for a man, but I want a man of God who's not going to see me as his property just because I had a requirement for his income. Well, God doesn't have a requirement for his income. God only has a requirement for his work, his effort, and his heart's posture. So you can't have a requirement for a man's income and require a man of God, because a man of God is not focused on income alone. He's focused on his heart's posture for God, and income is a byproduct of his work ethic, his integrity, his character, his dignity, And what he understands is that his income is determined by what God feels he is ready to handle. So what a man of God realizes is that he may be at $30,000 a year for a decade until God sees him faithful to be at 60,000. And then he may be at 60,000 for a decade until God sees him faithful to be at 120,000. And he may be there for the rest of his life, and he may also go back down to 60,000. So what you have to understand is that a man of God will not be with a woman who has a specific income requirement for him, because a man of God will not let a woman put a requirement on him that God has not put on him. So if a woman says, I want a man who is 100% faithful to me, a man of God is okay with that because God requires that as well. If a woman says, I want a man who will be abstinent until marriage, a man of God, a true man of God, will be okay with that because God requires that of him too. Now, what the Bible says is, if you don't work, you don't eat. So a man of God understands he has to work. But there is no guarantee or promise on the exact amount of money or when it will come. So God does say that the righteous will not be forsaken. God does say that he will give us the desires of our heart. God does say that we will want for nothing. Like he will provide for us the same way the lilies of the field are clothed and the fowls of the air are fed. But that doesn't mean $70,000 a year guaranteed. It could be 50, but it also could be 500,000. So that's what has to be understood. A income requirement that is placed on a man or placed on a woman comes from a Jezebel spirit. The requirement should be on the content of their character. And if the contents of the character are righteous and pure, then money will be a byproduct of righteous character. You cannot have righteous character with a work ethic that is working as unto the Lord, as the Bible says, and remain broke. It's universal law. A workman is worth his wages and double if he is faithful. So says the Bible. So it is impossible. I'm living it. And I used to make $20,000 a year when my wife married me. And we are living in the abundance and the increase of a righteous and faithful lifestyle to God. He will not stay where he's at financially if his heart and mind is set on God. And if you are a woman of God, you have to see him the way God sees him. Otherwise, you are not a woman of God, nor do you deserve a man of God. If you judge a man by the world's standards, you will not receive a man of God. You will have a heap of coal or a lump of ashes. You will have a decoy, a Decepticon. You will have a wolf in sheep's clothing, a deceptor who will steal what's between your legs, steal what's between your ears, take everything you have in the bank and finesse you and cheat on you and leave you. Mark every word that I have just said and argue with me if you want to and watch what happens. Take it to the bank. Bet your life on it. Hey, this Tony Gaskins. God bless you. Keep your head up. I'm going to be shooting videos, 15-minute videos that I get the chance, and I'm scheduling them 4 hours apart. So eventually they're going to be videos starting at noon, 4 p.m., 8 p.m., midnight, 4 a.m. for my people that's in Africa, 8 a.m., noon, and so on. So every video that the Lord let me shoot, nuggets of wisdom, 15-minute videos, I'm scheduling out 4 hours apart. So set your notification, be ready. And every day you come, you're going to be able to see some new stuff unless the Lord got me out on a mission somewhere. And the reason why I'm doing this is because we got to be louder than the devil. Get ready. God bless you.